moment. Welcome back.
Welcome.
Why are you laughing?
Because you're talking while narrating what we're doing while we're doing it.
I'm sorry, that's just like a boundary for me.
Yeah, sounds like you're projecting
Mm.
a little bit.
Sounds like you're gaslighting.
Yeah.
Welcome to the therapy episode.
Welcome.
Welcome.
We'd like to create some space.
We like to hold space.
Hold space today to speak about therapy in 2025 and the state that it is in, and the normalization and
homogenization.
Yes, and the weaponization.
And the weaponization too.
And
and the bedazzleification, all those things of therapy, and
the diversification.
The diversification. Yeah, interesting that we hold both the homogenization and the diversification.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Well, you have to hold space for many.
For duality.
Yeah, duality and dichotomy.
You do.
And Deuteronomy.
Always. Yeah. That goes without saying. Yeah, and I would like to just establish a boundary up top for this episode, and maybe even for the podcast as a whole, that we are not receptive to holding space to negative criticism.
Yeah.
So
that's hard stop.
Positive vibes only.
Yeah. Speaking of things we could be criticized for, I'm going to make sure that the audio is recording.
Oh, good idea. You had an intrusive thought, is what you had. Check.
And we're back.
We recovered from that intrusive thought.
Yeah. A clear example of why both of us have been in therapy at one point.
Yep.
Anxiety.
Yep. It's crazy to think that, like, if we were doing this 6-7 years ago, like, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Like, I think we really haven't realized just how much therapy has, like, entered the mainstream in the last couple of years. Like, especially, like, during COVID and kind of in the post-COVID era, it's become, I would say, like, there's been a pendulum swing almost.
Yeah.
To the point where, like, it gets oversimplified when people are like, everyone should be in therapy. Like, well, it's like a little bit more nuanced than that.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely is. Like, in a way, I guess, we would have to have a lot of really good therapists for everyone to be in therapy, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's a hard profession, and it's hard to be actually genuinely good at it. And there's not enough of that, unfortunately. And like we don't have I don't know if we have the infrastructure and the systems in place to train the, like, fleet of of therapists that we would need to actually get everyone into therapy, unfortunately.
Definitely.
One day we'll have therapy chatbots, and that's what everybody's gonna be using.
Don't we already have those?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we definitely do.
I think we might already have them. If they have, like, AI, like, romantic partners. Yeah. There's a thin line between.
Yeah. Throwback to our last episode.
Yeah.
If you haven't checked that out, check it out.
Yeah. Well, you put on here, like, using ChatGPT as a therapist.
Yeah.
Did you put that on here knowing that we have a mutual friend who does that?
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure if that was just something that was conjured out of here.
No.
Because I have now heard of multiple people who do that. Like, Jesse Eisenberg was just an interview where he was talking about, like, using ChatGPT I mean, not explicitly as a therapist, but like,
Yeah.
For general feedback.
Yeah. Yeah. And like ways to navigate emotional situations.
Yeah. Which I'm not necessarily a proponent of that tool specifically, but I think that there, along with like the normalization of therapy, there needs to also be like a discussion of the fact that it's okay to like seek emotional support and seek help with your mental health from other avenues, and that like it's not enough to simply go to therapy, because not all therapists are good.
Yeah.
But also a lot of therapists are similar. Like they're working within like a similar modality. And I sometimes like worry that if we're all kind of going to like the same brand of therapist, if we're all doing like traditional like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, which is like the normal one, that like, are we just going to be having the most like boring relationships and interactions with our friends where like we're all kind of saying the same things? Like, rarely do I have someone who says like, oh, my therapist said, and it's like this crazy take I haven't heard of before. And I want more of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're just looking for the spicy therapists. But like we also in the diversification kind of realm, we do have examples of people going to therapy practices that are
therapy practices
that are strange. It's like this healer put crystals all over my body, and I just felt all of my
in
childhood
my body.
I felt all of my childhood trauma just ooze away. It came right back like 2 days later, but for that 2 days, I was bliss
on a high.
Yeah.
But it still is the same thing where someone is paying someone is like professionally outsourcing an element of care that otherwise they would go to people in their community about.
Yeah.
And that's kind of something you talked about a little bit last time, is like sometimes feeling like you need to like go to a therapist, like pay a professional in order to tell you that it's okay to ask for help from your friends, or like get therapy in a way from your friends.
Yeah. I was trying to think of, and I'm sure this would be a fun segment. Maybe put it in the comments below if you have any ideas about like therapy that conservatives would like excitedly do, like horse therapy or something like that.
Yeah.
Or like it's just boys at the bar, but it's group therapy.
Maybe podcast therapy.
Yeah, podcast therapy.
You just get like a set of mics for you
Cigars.
and your buddy.
Yeah. Yeah, some Jack Daniels, and the boys.
Yeah.
But we're gonna talk about our relationships with our
conning men into
partners.
Talking to one another.
Yeah.
So you're gonna start facilitating men's groups, is what you're saying?
Yeah, probably not.
You're gonna get like a hat with feather and stuff.
Is that a requirement?
Yeah, like a kind of like a wide brimmed.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
And then kind of like what you were verging on with your personal style in like 2013.
Yeah,
like a lot of like deep tank tops.
Yeah, no, that was like 2008.
Okay, never mind.
I graduated high school in 2010.
Okay, yeah, I forget we have a little bit of a gap there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, yeah, 2008.
I was rocking the deep V's in like sophomore year of high school.
It's not a deep V, it's a deep scoop.
Oh, okay.
It's a little bit different.
Yeah, that was like 2009.
But it's okay, yeah, but it's Pirate adjacent, Mumford & Sons adjacent.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay, then you can say 2011, 12.
Okay. Yeah, 2012 makes sense.
When I was wearing a sailor jacket.
That would make sense. It would be the same era.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's when you're primed to lead a men's group. A bit of a V.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next topic.
Moving on.
Yeah. Quickly, I would like to talk about Joe. So yeah, on the topic of therapy, the best therapist that I ever had, I went through a few therapists, trying to find one that really felt like was helping me, because and the others did, just it didn't feel very substantial. I don't know if they had the right language,
Mm.
to help me. Maybe it was a little too intellectual, and Joe was the uh, perfect person to say things in in a simple way. Um,
Wasn't Joe like a football coach or
yes,
something? Ugh, I
he
love
no, he
it.
wasn't a football coach. He was the captain of the football team. So okay, yeah. So Joe was I seeked out a male therapist because that was one thing that I wanted to try. And it's like less common. And yeah, he was but I found a male therapist and I had a great experience. I went to him for a little while, but there were days where I walked in and I was just like, we're not talking about me today. We're talking about you. So I would just ask him questions and he was totally down. He was very accommodating for those days, which I think led to our relationship being really good
Mm,
and me being comfortable, being vulnerable with
yeah.
him. But what I learned about him and some like quick anecdotes about him were like he was captain of the football team in high school, and he in a small town in like rural America where there was like the total population was like 5,000 and 4,000 people would come to the football game.
Hmm.
And so he was like famous in his small town in Midwest America.
Oh my God.
And
I'm just imagining the most like Friday Night Lights man to
yeah,
have ever
exactly.
existed.
Yeah, and just super charismatic dude. And the reason why this came up was it was like uh or like I think part of all that was like me being like so like transitioning from a jock, like because he was like I was a jock. I was
Yeah.
totally like dating the captain or the captain of the cheer team,
Hmm.
like and uh and transitioning from that to being a therapist was really intense because he had to go to these like workshops and like train a level of vulnerability and like emotional intelligence that I didn't get from my upbringing. Like I wanted to do this
Hmm.
thing that required a language that I didn't speak. And
Right.
then he started doing the education around it and like seeing just everything like you know uh kind of coming to life around him and seeing things differently. And but there were still some moments in therapy with him that I had where that jockness would like shine through.
Yeah.
One of them being him talking about having his kids
Hmm.
and like I feel like anyone with with well he thought that having a kid was going to be like having like just a high maintenance pet.
Mm.
And I was just
Oh,
like,
so he was like having kids like while you were still
yeah.
a patient of
Yeah,
his. Yeah.
yeah. There was a period of time where he like he stopped having sessions with me for a
Hmm.
couple of weeks because he had his second kid. But he talked about his
Only a couple of
experience.
weeks. God, we
Yeah.
need better paternity leave in this
Yeah, we
country.
do.
Topic
But
for another episode.
yeah. He uh his experience of having his first kid, he was talking about that though, and I was like, when he said that, I was just like, no, Joe, like they're gonna break you down. You're gonna go through all the phases of
Yeah.
being a child with them, and
Hmm.
like it's such a visceral human experience that is so much more.
You were like, Joe, I know, as a single childless 20-something.
Well, it just seemed like a no-duh kind of thing. And he was just like, yeah, I don't know how I thought it was just going to be like, I just got a puppy or something like that. And it was like this really eye-opening thing where he had such a narrower perspective on it before it happened.
Yeah.
And for me, growing up in an environment where people are a little more emotionally in tune with themselves, like that feels like just a kind of no-brainer.
Right.
But for a man growing up in rural America, it children are just high maintenance pets.
Right. Yeah. Totally.
Until you have one, and then you're like, oh well, this is a reality that I didn't expect. But that's Joe. I miss Joe a lot.
I've never had a Joe, but all of my best therapists have been Midwestern therapists. And my who I wish could be my therapist is that guy who is a legit therapist who won the what's his name? Jeremy Taylor White. I can't get it. The guy from The Bear. The guy from The Bear, Jeremy Allen White. They had lookalike competitions for him in Chicago. This guy who is a therapist in Chicago won. And so he now has this clout of winning the Jeremy Allen White lookalike contest. And he is using it to make videos where he is dressed as Jeremy Allen White in The Bear and is giving people mental health tips. And it's phenomenal. And I want him to be my therapist.
That's great. Introduce this subject. So,
okay.
We've all had an interaction with someone in, whether it be in the workplace or, even some of mine are about being at a grocery store.
I do have a grocery store one.
Yeah, a lot of them happen at grocery stores where you have an interaction with either someone you know or a stranger where they're very obviously
in want of therapy.
Yeah, in want of therapy and channeling some frustrations from some completely different thing onto you. And
I cheated a little bit and I included some where you clearly have done the first step of therapy. You need to go back.
Yeah.
You need to revise.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. You want to lead us off?
This was used as an example when we talked about this. So
okay.
To the checker at the grocery store that told me to howl at the moon, and when I smiled and walked away, she said under her breath, "Or not, you need therapy."
Great. To the multiple men who have flipped out at me for no reason in the past 2 weeks and then followed up a week later with an apology, you need to go back to therapy. You've done the first step of acknowledging your triggers and your emotions. Second step of taking responsibility for them in a timely manner.
To the older woman I flirted with while living on a farm, and she chose to take that relationship a lot further and grope me in a grocery store. And when I looked visibly uncomfortable about it, she told the checker that I like it. Speaking for me, saying he likes it.
Oh my God.
You need to go back to therapy.
That's terrible, man. I'm so sorry. What grocery store?
I'm not going to say any more specifics.
I mean, just was it like a Safeway or
no,
like a kind of co-op type?
It was a co-op.
Okay. Yeah. Oof. I hope you and Joe unpacked all of Hawaii together.
We did.
Good.
Anyways.
To the gym employee who is currently making it his life's mission to try to catch me sneaking into a yoga class, which I did once a year ago. Have you tried talking to a therapist about this?
To the man that no matter how many times I help him be a better employee and give him opportunities to learn and guide him through that. No matter how many times I do that, he still thinks that I'm going to sabotage him at every moment. You should see a therapist.
It was personal. Wow.
Yeah.
To the woman I met in the sauna, the one-person sauna, who told me about every physical injury she's ever had. Have you tried talking to a therapist about this?
To the woman crying and screaming at the service worker behind the cakes and pastries desk at Oliver's at like 9 p.m. For not writing text very well on the cake that she bought last minute, despite them telling her that the person that does the writing has left already and they can do their best. Should see the
list. Follow the grocery store line. To the grocery store employee who refused to accept that I was holding a samosa and insisted that it was a cinnamon roll. You tried seeking therapy for your delusions.
To the young man who wait, I need to actually read this. I wrote this when I was tired. Oh yeah.
I'm back.
Now I remember what this is about.
Okay.
To the young man who gave a gift and a letter to a young woman and then asked her how she felt about him, because obviously that letter was expressing how he felt about her, and she replied, "I don't really know you. You needed therapy, and this is about me. This is something that I did.
That was
and I
the
did
punchline.
Yeah,
Nice. A little before and after.
Yeah.
To the woman on a 56-person Zoom call joining from her car in traffic, you need to turn off your camera, turn off your mic, and go to therapy. So along with like the normalization of therapy, we've of course encountered the normalization and proliferation of therapy speak, which sometimes seems a lot more about relinquishing responsibility than it does actually like upholding healthy boundaries and caring for your friends and community.
Yeah. It's the new religion that you can use to absolve yourself of all your sins.
Yeah, it's pretty damn freeing, actually.
Yeah, you can just tell someone that you've done the work.
Yeah, and then no questions asked.
And then you're a better person.
One better help session and you're like, I'm healed, I've done the work.
Yeah, exactly. I've done the work, and when I cuss someone out in a grocery store next week, I will do a little bit more work the next day with my therapist, and it won't matter.
It won't matter.
It's like it never happened.
It's like the last rites. It's
know?
just like, yeah, exactly.
And, I'm sure that the trauma that those other people experienced,
that's about them.
Yeah, exactly.
That's for their therapists to deal with.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. This is best weaponized therapy speak.
Best/worst.
Yeah, best/worst. Okay. You go first.
My body has been keeping the score and it's winning.
That's good. Yeah, like I said, mine are long. I think you're trying to gaslight me about the utility bill, and my inner child is telling me I need to set a boundary and say that you can only text me about the bill.
Fantastic. Yeah, mine are much shorter. I just think whenever someone disagrees with you, you should say, and that's on gaslighting. And you have to do a little clap with it.
The tone you speak with sounds like my inner critic. So I think I need some space. It's a good way to break up with a situationship.
That's good.
Yeah.
So do you like struggle with an anxious attachment style? If someone asks you like, what you've been up to lately.
You have a story about someone asking really personal questions at like a party. What was that? That dude asked you like, "Oh, are
I ran into someone
implied that
who I hadn't seen in a long time. I think this is what you're talking about.
Doing better or something."
Yeah. I ran into someone at a party who I hadn't seen in a long time, and they said, "Oh wow, I didn't even recognize you because you just seemed so awful the last time I saw you. Are you doing better?"
Yeah, that's a certain like weaponization of
Yeah, like I think if he had fit a couple other like therapy words in there.
mm-hmm.
I mean, it was more leaning in the direction of like your aura was just so dark last time.
Yeah, exactly. Or like, and it seems like you're working on yourself.
Yeah,
You know, you've done a lot of work on yourself.
Yeah, I can really see it.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I'm just like at a party with people that I like.
Yeah.
People have laughed at my jokes tonight, and so that's directly correlating to me feeling happier.
Mm-hmm. I don't practice polyamory. I practice therapeutic alliances, where we cultivate restorative experiences. I feel like if I asked them if it was okay that I do this with multiple people at the same time, that would hurt their present moment awareness.
That's dark. My inner child cannot read, so no, I won't be responding to your text.
I need you to practice mindfulness and tell me you don't mind when I eat the yogurt on your side of the fridge. And I also feel like you're projecting some insecurity and possessiveness when you call it my yogurt. Rough.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a little bit #triggered after listening to all of those.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we could use a nice kind of relaxing moment to reset the space.
Mm-hmm.
I have a guided meditation for us.
Okay.
So let's take a deep breath. And exhaling ha. You are here. And while your student loan balance is also still here, I'm just going to put that aside for now. Take a moment to just find a comfortable position, whether that's in a kitchen cupboard in your $7,000 a month apartment that you share with 6 housemates, or on a mattress on your floor, because bed frames are a weapon of the ruling class. Let's gently close our eyes. And if that makes you feel a little bit too vulnerable, you can just kind of soften your gaze in the way that you do when you're in the grocery store and you see your ex situationship in your peripheral vision. Let's take another deep breath in, filling your lungs with air, because at least air is still free. And ha. Releasing any tension, stress, or thoughts about how your relatives bought houses for $50,000, and a handshake. Now let's just bring awareness to our body. Whisper gently to it that it can stop keeping the score now. It's going to say no. Say, okay, my bad. Forget I even asked. And just kind of feel the weight of your limbs, the heaviness in your chest. Is that anxiety? Might just be the 3 cans of guayaki you've had today on an empty stomach. You don't need to analyze it. Just acknowledge it, as you do with every email that begins, per my last email, Jane, are you illiterate? I'd like to set an intention for this practice. Perhaps it's acceptance, perhaps it's inner peace, or perhaps it's just finding the will to respond to a text within a normal human time frame. Whatever it is, let's just let it be. And as these thoughts arise and kind of permeate your mindfulness about loneliness, fascism, the fact that you might never know the sweet relief of a life without push notifications, just acknowledge them, then let them drift away. just like the man who kissed you on the forehead and then never spoke to you again. And now I'm going to invite you to visualize a place of peace. It might be an alternative timeline where you have affordable health care and a clear sense of purpose and a bathroom of one's own. Whatever it is, just settle into it. Feel safe, feel free. Ignore the distant sounds of sirens. And then take one last deep breath in and out, coming back to our bodies. Just kind of gentle wiggle fingers and your toes, returning to the present moment. You can now go forth, hydrate. We have a liquid IV code, and try not to catastrophize for at least the next 5 minutes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a guided meditation as well.
Oh, good.
Um,
So funny that we both did one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one is for fans that we probably will never have, young people. I don't go to yoga enough to be able to fake this really, really well, but let's take a deep breath in. Breathe, but make it slay. All right, bestie. Lock in. Sit down. Close your eyes and pretend your body is buffering. Now inhale. Like you just hit a perfect clip in Fortnite. Exhale. Like you just realized you forgot to do your homework, but YOLO. Again, breathe in. Like you just got your dream Roblox fit for free. Hold that and exhale. Like you just got ratioed in the group chat. Shake it off. You're not all of your L's. All right. So your brain is moving faster than a Discord mod banning trolls. Let's slow it down. Picture every weird, intrusive thought like it's unskippable mobile ad. Cringe. Swipe away. Repeat after me. I am not just a silly little guy. I am the silly little guy.
Am I supposed to?
You don't have to.
I'm saying it internally.
They have to. I do not fear the cringe. I am the cringe. I will not let a 3-second lag ruin my whole vibe. I will touch grass tomorrow. Feel that? That's peace. Or maybe low blood sugar. Probably get a snack. Now, visualize your highest self. Hydrated, unbothered. Controller drifts has been fixed. They don't rage quit. They don't get baited into internet beef. They simply slay. Deep breath in. Like you just loaded into a lobby with 0 sweats. Hold it. Now exhale. Like you just deleted cringe TikTok before anyone saw it. You are safe and you are him. Now slowly open your eyes. Wiggle your fingers. Like you're about to hit an insane edit course. Congrats. You are rebranded, refreshed, and ready to absolutely cook. Meditation over. You ate no crumbs.
I understood 0 of that.
Good.
Did you understand it?
Yeah.
Wow.
I've been studying this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's gotta make my TikToks relate to the children.
Yeah, I got it.
Yep. I do feel relaxed.
I actually feel a little better, honestly.
Yeah.
That was kind of nice.
Yeah.
Are you ready to talk about our frustration for the need for therapy? Our collective frustration?
Sure. Yeah, let's dive into that now that we're relaxed. Yeah, like depression and anxiety are like self-perpetuating things where it's like it becomes harder to maintain relationships, so you don't have relationships that could support you, so you get like mad that you feel unsupported, or for me in particular, mad that I have to go to therapy because I can't maintain relationships, but I need to go to therapy to get to the point where I can maintain, or not necessarily maintain relationships, but like the core reason why I went to therapy was to be a better friend.
Yeah, I think that's like a really good litmus test for whether or not you're having a meaningful experience in therapy, or whether or not you're getting what you need to out of it. Is like, if the only tools or progress that you're making are like within the structure of a therapy session. I mean, for certain things, for working through like trauma and PTSD, like that might be the case. But I think for a lot of the times with like anxiety and depression, like it should really be opening you up to so many tools that you're more comfortable using outside of therapy as well.
Yeah, I think my goal with it, and especially, I think I didn't all I went into therapy trying to fix was my ability to be a good friend, because I noticed that when I was depressed, I said horrible things to my friends, and I was just like just not a fun person to be around at all. So,
of course, because like, yeah, being a better friend is like up here, and then it's like all of the things that you need to do in order to show up as a better friend are what you're actually working on.
Yeah, but it was just there was many times where I came in there just mad that I didn't have relationships that satisfied the need, but or the satisfied the things that I needed to get from therapy.
Right.
But I had the problems that I was suffering from had gotten so bad that I had deteriorated the relationships that would give me those things, and also not maintain them. Deteriorated in many different ways, like whether it was like from just being mean or callous, or just like not connecting or reaching out as much as I should have, or I could have.
Totally. Yeah.
I don't know. This
Yeah.
It was I was frustrated for so many different reasons, and like mad at the world in a lot of different ways, and coming to terms and peace with a lot of things. Joe helped me a lot.
Wonderful. Yeah, like I think that the question that should kind of be asked more is like how to, instead of this sort of blanket approach of like everyone should be in therapy. And I think we've both seen like even on like dating apps and within like that kind of circle a lot, like don't even, try to talk to me if you're not in therapy or something. But I think like we should talk a lot more about like how to actually know when you need therapy, and also like what you need out of it, like what your specific goal is.
Yeah, I feel like some people don't realize, like some people are like going to therapy for a specific like goal of like potentially even as far as like validating like what they do.
Exactly.
And like some
just for having the stamp of like being in therapy too.
Or like my therapist told me it was okay to like scream at that service worker. So
yeah.
You were just processing your childhood trauma in that moment.
Right.
Like, no,
I completely agree. I think that like you can kind of easily like divide it into two categories of like, if your ultimate goal is connection, like as in you want to come out of, I think that should be the goal of like being in therapy, is allowing you to show up in the world in a way that lets you connect with others authentically as yourself, but without like what's the word I'm looking for? Not interrupting, but like imposing upon other people's lives and their own journeys with like your own stuff that you haven't dealt with.
Yeah.
Like
totally.
Therapy doesn't mean, being in therapy doesn't mean like learning to like suppress things so that you can like show up in spaces, but it It's about like learning how to like actually show up as your authentic self with all of your baggage that you carry with you in a way that isn't like negatively impacting the people around you, but is like, you know, calling upon them and leaning on them when it's appropriate.
Yeah, exactly. And like you've talked about this, and we've talked about this recently. It's just like some people do like a like initial step of like understanding like what's happening or what they're reacting to, and like past traumas and stuff like that. But
right, like the validation part.
Yeah,
they're doing that part.
Yeah, but the next step is oftentimes like overlooked or not taken, where like, okay, you've got this information, what do you do with it? Do you like, you gotta kind of retrain yourself to catch yourself reacting to things, and then change your behaviors instead of just like noticing after the fact. Like if you notice after the fact, you still did a fuck up, you know?
Right.
If you don't notice at all, you need to go to the therapy. If you notice after the fact, congratulations. The therapy is working, but you're not done.
Yeah, you're still not like connecting with people. You're still in like engaging in practices and in behavior that's going to just make people not want to interact with you.
Yeah, exactly. And then the final step is like you catch yourself in the midst of a reaction and go, okay, I'm not going to act the way that I have been in the past because that pushes people away from me. How can I change this behavior to
how can I like invite people in and like actually like make connections with people while I'm still experiencing these things?
Yeah, or at least like mitigating it and you know, mitigating the reaction and then coming back to it later without imposing the reaction onto other people.
I think my biggest frustration with like my last therapist, who I've referred to as like my bad therapist, was that it felt very much like her modality was centered around what we were talking about of like just validation instead of like forward moving progress. And so even though she was not a great therapist, I feel like there were some productive things that came out of like our sessions, because I was like, no, I very much do not want this. I don't want to just tell myself after an uncomfortable interaction that it was all in my head. I want to have tools to like show up better in the world. And she was not the person to give that to me. I also think she had undiagnosed ADHD, but that's another thing.
Yeah, she
routinely, she never remembered my name.
That's really bad.
After like we saw each other for quite a while, and she would routinely, like, there were a couple of tests that I asked her to do, and she was like, for me, that she could administer, that I like looked up, and she'd be like, oh yeah, I emailed it to you. And I'd be like, I don't think you did. Can you try again? And she'd be like, yeah, totally. And this would be like a back and forth email thread for like weeks. That in the meantime, like, we're not scheduling like the next appointment or anything like that. It was hard.
And then she finally ghosted you, right?
And then she finally ghosted me for once, and at that point it was fine. But yeah, like, I think that she really like her kind of project was just like validation, and like she really wanted to assign a lot of things to anxiety. I think there's a place for that, but it felt very like enabling. Some points to end on. I think like not all therapists are good therapists, as I've just mentioned. Bad people can be in therapy. Like we've known people who like are actively bad people and are still in therapy, because obviously like their therapists are trying to get them to keep coming back to therapy. You can't just tell someone like, oh, I think you're actually like a narcissist and a sociopath. They're not going to come back to you as a therapist.
Yeah.
So they've got to keep them in there.
Unless it's like mandated, they're not going to keep on coming back. So like there's a lot of feel good therapy out there that is detrimental.
Yeah. Or I think it just points to the fact that like you can't say someone being in therapy is like a stamp of approval, or it shouldn't be the green flag, I think, that we've made it out to be necessarily.
Yeah.
It can be a green flag.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely a lot of men need to do some therapy. But there's also a lot of people that are in therapy already that aren't necessarily fixing their problems with it. So like,
yeah.
I mean, I think that specific thing of men doing therapy or going to therapy needs to be said less, and men speaking or like being vulnerable with their friends needs to be said more.
Yeah.
Although that's already being said a lot.
That's being said a lot, but
Yeah.
no, I agree. I definitely think that's a good point. I think that like the message should be that therapy should be more accessible. It doesn't necessarily mean everyone should be in therapy, period. On the note of accessibility, do you want to talk about our charitable organization?
So our if you want to support the cause, and check out Therapists for Therapists. It's a foundation to where you can donate to a fund to get all therapists their own therapist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because therapists who don't work in private practice don't make a lot of money. Yeah. And I'm not confident that they can afford their own therapist.
Yeah. Yeah. And some therapists are in a practice of therapy that is so obscure and outside of any traditional practice that they're probably not in, and also don't believe in traditional therapy, and those people should be mandated to
and that's on therapy.
And that's yep.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
This
Boy hour
counts as one therapy session.
Yeah, exactly.
You are in therapy now.
Yeah. If you made it through this whole episode, you can do another year of procrastinating.
Yeah.
Going to therapy. Actually, yeah, this counts as 1 year of therapy.
You can update your Hinge profile to say that you are working on yourself.
Yeah. And I'd like to point out that my phone is writing down everything that we're saying right now. So.
Good. And hopefully sending it to someone.
Yeah, definitely.
Great. All right. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, gather round, folks. It's time we dig in. We're just two restless souls in a world wearing thin. Matt and Aila, they're walking the line, talking about friendship, how to live and be kind. Oh boy, hours all yours. You don't gotta say please. We're getting vulnerable, it's an emotional striptease. Boy hours for everyone, no matter the hue. We're just cringy millennials with nothing to do. Oh, we're cringy millennials, and we made a podcast